Hi there, it's Ian here, and you're watching Grumpy Opinions, the show where I'm going to tell you all about what I think of films, TV shows, games, and life in general. Let's get on with the show.
Snowpiercer is a TV show on Netflix based on the cult movie of the same name, and just like the train, it keeps on going. Episode 4, Without Their Maker, starts out with all the folk in a panic about the murder of Nikki, and the doctor's absolutely beside himself, and they give Layton free rein to go to town on all the firsties to find out who done it. And of course, he works out pretty fast that an awful lot of the folk aren't actually there because of course, none of them thought to invite the help along. And due to Ginger McPoshgirl dropping some mega hints, they figure out quite quickly that it's almost certainly going to be her bodyguard. And of course, Chips and Beans Vin Diesel is stuck back in third. He's down in beers and waiting for the doors to open. But he figures out that things are up because he's ex-military and knows stuff, so he hides himself away and gets ready for some action. And Layton and Melanie check out the bodyguard's room and they find a strange tool there. Turns out it's a beekeeping tool, so they send off Till and Oz to check out the disused beekeeping crates back in third. And then while Layton has a one-on-one chat with the Ginger Psycho, who kinda quickly all but admits that she actually did the murders, and that she's willing to trade Layton's silence for some blueprints and guns, because frankly, she's happy to help him take over because she's kinda bored. And sure enough, after a bit of a scuffle and a chase, Till and Oz manage to catch the security guy, but before he can mumble, "Family," and do a murder on him right to death with a bunch of hatchets. But Layton's not up for deals, so after a kind of theatrical nod to Melanie, they lift the Ginger girl as well, and after that, it's Saki all round. Hey! But unfortunately, Melanie has a bit of bad news for Layton, because you see, he's down for a big sleep, because he's worked out the secret that there actually is no Mr. Wilford after all. Meanwhile, back in the tail, Josie decides to use the door key to get a message up to one of their apprentices in third class, so she swaps out on work detail and then uses the secret stash of clothes there to wander around the train until she can find her pal Astrid. And Astrid tells her that Layton's on cop duty, and that she'll manage to pass back messages through the food, and then gives her some lunch and lets her look at the window because, you know, it's been a long time since she's got to do that. And when she gets back, finally they receive a message from Astrid, and it's that Layton has gone missing. Ooh. So what did I think? Well, one thing I've not actually mentioned up until now is a really nice touch they've been doing every episode, and that's that every episode starts with a short voiceover from a different character. First it was Layton, then Josie, then the Doctor, and this week it was the biologist fish lady. And every time it gives a wee insight into life on Snowpiercer, 1001 carriages long, which is what they always say at the end of all these little voiceovers. And I'm calling it now, at some point they're going to lose some carriages, and 1 week it's going to have that. In fact, I genuinely did think originally when I was writing this down, there was going to be a bit, possibly at the end of the last episode of the season, when they'll leave that little voiceover right up until the end, but they're going to lose some carriages, and it'll be like, oh, 999 carriages long. And I only went and looked up online, and they released the titles of all the episodes, and the last episode of the season is literally called 994 carriages long. So there you go. But there was a few other good touches this week. Like, I liked the fact that they had that good cop, bad cop bit going between Melanie and Layton. Or maybe a bit more good staff lady, bad taily cop thing. Anyway. Or how Josie got kind of a bit breathless and teary when she was getting the food and looking out the window. I mean, it was a nice touch. But it was maybe a bit over the top. And that's kind of the problem. Because, to be entirely honest, that's about all I've got to say that's actually good. Because this episode was frankly pretty awful. I mean, it's certainly the worst episode ever of this show so far, but I mean, there's only been 4 episodes, so, you know, it's not really maybe fair enough to judge it on that much. But I'm not kidding. There has only been 4 episodes, and I forgave the first episode for being a mess because of all the stuff that went on behind the scenes, and the 2 after that were passable with a lot of problems, but this episode was just trash. And it's not even, like The Guardian said in their review of the season, glorious trash. Because the fact is, I don't think there's anything glorious about this. I think it's just bad. Because to begin with, the writing this week was absolutely terrible. The lines were really awful, and in fact the actors seemed to be kind of embarrassed to be delivering them.
Alright, 2 things first. I don't give a shit who you are. And somebody up here's got a thing for chopping off third-class dick.
Which is probably why they delivered them all with the kind of level of a high school play. And I think a lot of that comes down to bad direction, which the direction was just terrible this week. I mean, stuff like, you know, the guy being ill at the beginning, but he wasn't actually ill right up until he says, "I'll just go off. Oh, cough, 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 fall over." I mean, you went from 100% fine to like coughing and ill, and like, and you saw with the close-up and he was all kind of grey. And it's like, hang on a minute. Why wasn't he doing that from the beginning of the scene? They should have been playing that the whole scene. Or like David Diggs' big theatrical nods to everyone, or the whole thing, everything to do with LJ the Ginger Psycho. Now, I'm not particularly ragging on the actors, because it's the director's job to rein them in and to get a good performance out of them. And clearly the job was not being done properly. Even though the director, Frederick E.O. Toy, has a long list of TV credits to his name. Like, he's genuinely done loads of really good shows, and he's done episodes of things that I have actually enjoyed. But mainly, the big problem on this was the plot was terrible as well. This whole show has been predicated on this idea of the murder mystery that's supposedly the main plot. Ostensibly, it's a murder plot, but the background is everything else on the train. It got completely tanked in about 10 minutes in this episode. Yeah, it was like, oh look, remember Chips and Beans Vin Diesel? Yeah, well, he did it, but actually it wasn't him. It was wee Jemima, who's just fed up and spoiled, and basically her entire motivation is that she's just some kind of bored rich teeny bopper. So instead of a great, deep, interesting plot that might have had kind of machinations and some kind of deeper meaning, there might have been some grand conspiracy of people, we've got some teenager who's basically like doing crimes on the snow train, because she's bored. Yeah, apologies to anyone who's over the age of 25, because I don't think anyone's going to get that reference, and I'm frankly ashamed of myself for even making it, but there you go. But bored is the operative word, because this episode was just downright boring. I mean, everything was so paper thin and predictable that I'm amazed everyone even actually bothers, which actually is the point, is they're not bothering. That's why everyone in the show looks so completely half-arsed and like they can't be bothered to actually put any effort in. And it's also, this is possibly one of the most crappiest detective things I've ever seen in my life. I mean, there's some good detective stuff and there's some bad detective stuff out there, but this was just lazy. And then the B plot about Josie wasn't particularly interesting. And the fact that the only bit of the episode that I actually did suddenly make my ears and eyes perk up was the bit with Layton getting drugged at the end and then stuck in a box, because I didn't actually anticipate that happening, at least not at this point in the show. And really, that's all I've got to say on this. So I kind of hope to heck that next week's a lot better and there's some new stuff going on, because otherwise there will be issues. Oh, issues, I say. I will indeed have them, and there will be many grumpy opinions. So till next time, I've been Ian, and these have been my grumpy opinions. And I'd just like to say thanks to all my viewers. If you haven't already subscribed, please do. Follow me on Facebook and on Twitter. Also to my top tier patrons, I love you guys. Especially to Judith Coloma and Michelle Forbes, my top tier patrons. Thanks for everything. Hope everyone stays well. Hope everyone's getting through lockdown and getting through all the troubles that are going on at the moment. So everybody, I'll see you next week. Look after yourselves and each other. Bye bye.